Let's talk. Your health and wellness podcast.
And welcome to our second podcast in our health and wellness series. So great to have you with us, and really look forward to this episode where we're really going to focus on men, and see how they are doing both in a physiological and health and longevity perspective. If our first episode, we really focused in on women and females and seeing how their hormonal and their physiological status affected their health and longevity. And I suppose it's now a chance for the men. And together with me in the studio today, we have Mark Bates. Mark, welcome. Nice to have you with me as part of our discussion today. And look forward to really going through this journey today and really to understand. Often I think the new age is like, let's focus on females and how they're coping, but I think men may feel a bit left out. What do you think?
Yeah, fair enough. Very much so. I think a lot of the focus does shift away from the male perspective, because everyone thinks, men strong, rah, we know what to do, So I think there is a lot of scope for us to sort of help guide people who might be a little bit sort of in the dark as to what health and wellness is for a man, how it looks, what you can be doing, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, things that you can focus on that you maybe shouldn't be focusing on. Hopefully that some of the takeaways from this episode will be a sort of guidance as to what would be the steps to really improve the one's health span, lifespan as a male moving forward.
And that's great, and look forward to that. So I'm Dr. Avron Urison, and we've got Mark Bates with us, and we look forward to exploring in this episode with you men and males and physiological health, wellness, and longevity. So Mark, let's kick it off. And I think the key area is obviously looking at physiological and hormonal differences between men and women. So we know that men and women have distinct hormonal profiles, with testosterone being the predominant hormone in men and estrogen in women. We'll obviously talk about that as we go through the show today. But these differences affect muscle growth, fat distribution, metabolism, and recovery rates. And we know, we should know that men typically have more muscle mass and less body fat, but women are more resilient to stress and have different responses to certain types of exercise. And we'll talk about a bit about that as we go through our episode today. But essentially, the key hormone and what we have to look at is testosterone in men, and we'll be talking a bit about that. But Mark, you being more in the fitness and the wellness space, have you seen sort of unique challenges that men face as opposed to women in the fitness and wellness space?
Well, I mean, just obviously we all know, I think testosterone is a word that as males we hear a lot. Testosterone is what it's our, it's basically the, it's the driving force of the male system. And it's what sort of separates us from males and females. Testosterone dictates our muscle mass, our bone density, and all these type of things. So it's important for us to not just throw the word around, and then also to help men understand what it really is, and how different levels of testosterone can affect you moving forward throughout your fitness journey. And then further down the line, Doc, I know you and I will discuss how testosterone levels dip in time. It's just a natural thing, and then how we can look at increasing these testosterone levels to sort of not reverse, but to there is no magic antidote, but to really sort of keep the keep you young in a way. You know what I mean? But regardless of that, as you spoke about, for I think some of the unique things that men struggle with, or not struggle, some of the pitfalls that we might have as a male in the fitness industry is is that constant struggle of you walk into a gym, for example, and we've just started our fitness journey, and we're about to go and lift weights or get stuck into a new program. There's that push and pull between where you're seeing someone that's a very seasoned gym goer, and then you yourself think you want to be that person straight away. You know what I mean? And it's sort of we live in that instant gratification world where we start doing fitness, and we've gone to see our doctor. Like, so let's say you told me, Mark, it's time, you need to start making changes in your life, positive changes. We aren't willing to accept that this is going to take time, and this will be a prolonged, a very much prolonged sort of, not prolonged, but I mean, it will take time. When we live in that instant gratification world where we think like 3 to 6 months, we're going to be completely different people. But what we don't understand is that there's so many steps within this, small little lifestyle changes, understanding the chemical balances of our body, understanding the dietary changes that we make. And I read a great quote the other day. It said, you don't go to the gym to lose weight, and that is just the unpopular opinion, but people need to understand that the gym is not where you go to lose weight. You actually, it's part of the process, for sure. I mean, exercising 3 to 5 times a week does help turn your body into that furnace to burn the calories that you need to lose weight, but it's not the be all and end all. And so many of us don't want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to hear you need to make holistic lifestyle changes. They think that I'll just go to the gym, and then in 3 to 6 months' time, I'm going to be this whole new person. You understand?
Yeah.
So,
I
say,
think,
unpopular opinion.
Mark, so thanks for bringing that up. And I want to explore, because I think that myth, right, sort of leads us now into the role of testosterone in muscle mass, fat distribution, recovery. We will talk about other hormones, and there is the myth that I just want to mention before I go into that sort of it's only testosterone that drives all aspects of men's health, and I want to dispel that myth as we go through it now. But I think that leads us nicely into testosterone, and talking about that as the key hormone function for men. Now, we know that testosterone is essential for muscle protein synthesis. That's production sort of muscle, influencing muscle growth and repair, and it regulates fat distribution, ensuring a higher muscle to fat ratio.
Correct. Yeah, 100%.
What have you sort of, in your experience, have you directly seen that with individuals with testosterone, high or low testosterone, that sort of it has a direct impact on their muscle mass and fat distribution?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I was thinking about this before the podcast, and one of the things that I wanted to discuss was, our testosterone levels are sort of peaked between our teens and sort of mid-20s. You know what I'm saying? That is our peak sort of. That's when our fuel is running at absolutely high octane. You know what I mean? So a youngster, for example, a kid that starts gymming at, say, 13, 14, and another thing I was thinking about is a lot of people would say that's too young. It really isn't. That is when you at your optimal, you're starting to build the building blocks for yourself moving forward. So if you, obviously within reason, I mean, you don't want the teenager to start doing crazy weights, but at the end of the day, they're building their building blocks, which will, in time, set them in such a good state down the line. You know what I mean? So anywhere between the ages of 13 and 20, the adaptation to stimulus is going to be something that you will see a lot quicker results than what you would say someone me in my 40s who starts training. My adaptation to stimulus would take a fair amount longer to sort of get those aesthetic results.
Exactly right. And I think so let's just understand that high testosterone levels will boost your metabolic rates, improve energy efficiency and fat burning, and support cardiovascular function, bone density, better muscle growth. So just all over in terms of, let's say, health and longevity, it's a very powerful hormone, and having that in the correct range is very important. And sort of in the teens into your early 20s and 30s, you will see that effect, and you should, I suppose, use it to your benefit. So those are the symptoms of having testosterone sort of in your mid range. The effects of low testosterone, so which I think is important to note, and if you see that happening at any point in your lifespan, it can start raising some red flags. So those symptoms would be low testosterone causing a reduced muscle mass, increased body fat, fatigue, tiredness, mood instability, which we don't particularly see often in necessarily often in men, but you see that mood instability starting to creep in. And so those are sort of like red flag markers where if you're training and you're exercising and you're not seeing your muscle mass growing and you're seeing increased body fat and you're seeing all these mood changes, it may point to that there may be an issue with your testosterone levels, and it may be worthwhile getting investigated, which I'll talk a bit about. But part of the whole myth, which we really want to say, is that we can't only look in men's health and longevity. You cannot only look at testosterone. So, excuse me. The other very important hormone is insulin. And insulin, and obviously this is a hot topic. Your metabolic syndrome, what your insulin levels are. Very important hormone, regulates blood sugar and energy storage. And we know that insulin resistance can lead to fat storage, especially around the abdomen. So that's sort of the truncal obesity or the truncal excess weight, and that becomes a common issue in men, particularly as men move, say, from the 30s into the 40s. And there one has to look at the insulin. So you've got testosterone on the one hand, you've got to have that in your mind, red flag if things start changing. But insulin is a very, very important hormone. So if things start going out of balance, that insulin has to be investigated. It may be pointing to a reduction in insulin sensitivities, what we call insulin resistance, and that can progress to your full-blown metabolic syndrome, which includes numerous factors, and we'll talk about that in upcoming episodes, but obviously diabetes ultimately. And then, of course, you've got estrogen, which is very significant, and it does, whilst it's low in men, it does play a role in maintaining your bone health, your libido, your mood, and imbalances such as excess conversion of the testosterone to estrogen can lead to increased fat storage and mood changes, etc. And then finally, the final hormone I really want to talk about is cortisol, which really helps your body respond to stress. It can lead to muscle breakdown and fat storage when it's elevated, and managing cortisol and checking that it's right, and managing your stress and emotional status is very important in terms of managing that hormone. So really those are probably the 4 hormones to look at in men and in males in terms of their health and wellness and longevity. And that's really, as we mentioned, it's your testosterone, your insulin, your estrogen, and your cortisol. And all those levels have to be looked at. And if you see the changes happening between your muscle mass and fat distribution, then one should actually have that investigated further. With that, I think it's quite important to move on to muscle mass and training for men. As Mark was chatting about earlier, unfortunately, we've lost him. So hopefully he will rejoin us, because really this is his area of expertise and knowledge. Excuse me. But the benefits of building muscle mass. So whilst we do know, and I think Mark was mentioning that earlier, yes, it looks nice aesthetically. It's great. There are very important reasons why one should be building muscle mass as one ages, and really building that muscle. So muscle mass contributes to increased physical performance. We said obviously aesthetics. Obviously, it makes the aesthetically it looks much better. But it not only does it increase your physical performance, but it improves your strength and balance and overall functionality of your daily activities. But one area that's not really looked at and not really considered is the impact that actually the muscle actually has on metabolism and fat burning and weight management. So muscle in itself is a tissue that's metabolically active. It means that it burns more calories even at rest. And this aids or assists an individual in terms of maintaining that healthy weight and body composition. So the importance of your hormonal status, your testosterone, your cortisol, your insulin, your estrogen, all being at the right levels so you can build that muscle mass is actually very important. And in itself, that muscle mass actually manages and balances the your hormonal balance within your body. Going on to dietary and nutritional needs, because there's going to be a question then, and I'm sure listeners are listening to this podcast saying, fine, that sounds all interesting. So should I just be going out there and getting testosterone or hormones or precursors of hormones and taking them? And the answer is definitely no, not at the outset, right? One has to see in terms of how one can balance one's nutritional and dietary intake with one's foods and what one's ingesting. And once one's done that, only if still there's a point that your hormonal status is way out of kilter, way out of balance, then one can investigate it further and see, is supplementation actually required? So protein intake is a very important part in terms of muscle growth and repair, particularly for men, right? You require sufficient protein to support that muscle synthesis and that manufacture of that muscle, particularly when you engage in resistance training. And there you could look at sources of dietary protein like meat, eggs, dairy, legumes, plant-based proteins. But there was a time in sort of the nutritional world and dietetic world where they said, well, maybe really limit protein. But there is definitely a movement that one should start increasing one's protein intake and matching it to the needs in terms of the requirement to build muscle and see obviously if that's in balance. A balanced diet with the right proportions of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins supports energy levels. And as Mark was saying, you go to the gym, you're working out, you're building that muscle, but you do need to have the adequate intake. And I suppose there one has to balance, obviously one thinks one's going to gym, the old style and the old thought of losing weight. But yes, whilst one wants to lose that fat, you want to certainly maintain your muscle, if not increase your muscle to fat percentage ratios. And for that, you definitely need a well-balanced diet, which actually includes significant protein, with all the other food groups supporting it. Then, of course, you've got all the key vitamins and minerals for that muscle growth. And one vitamin that I definitely want to talk about is vitamin D, which actually supports your testosterone levels and bone health. Very important that you take in those precursors of vitamin D and you get significant or enough sunlight to actually make that vitamin D active. And then you've got magnesium, which is required for muscle function and relaxation, and zinc, which is crucial for immune function and hormone regulation. So 3 very important minerals to focus on: vitamin D, magnesium, and zinc. And then, of course, then you get to the supplements for optimizing your health and fitness. And that's the creatinine, your whey protein, and your testosterone support supplements. And there, as I said, one certainly needs to check one's levels, how one's doing at gym, look at the numbers, but definitely get professional input before one starts taking those supplements. There may be certain cases that individuals at certain times in their weight training or muscle building lives that they require it, but one certainly needs to look into it and discuss with an expert in terms of getting the correct supplements.
Yeah,
So
sorry
there,
about that, man. Sorry, I'm back.
sure, Mark, I was missing you there. I thought I'm going to go through the whole podcast.
Unless you want to learn there, unless you're up the creek without a paddle there, I do apologize. This is live, so there's technical issues. Apologies out there.
You've actually come in on a very good time. And just to say, we went through obviously the effect of hormones, and I spoke about insulin, cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, and the importance of those in terms of building muscle. And then I've just segued onto the dietary and nutritional needs. Speaking about protein, micronutrients, vitamins, and the supplements. But we actually at a point now in terms of supplements for optimizing men's health. So those are sort of your creatinine, your whey protein, your testosterone support supplements. I know this is you much more exposed to this area than I am, and certainly I'd like to gauge your input and your thoughts in terms of what you see, what's happening in the gyms. And obviously, I've mentioned in my discussion here that one does require protein and the supplements, obviously, to obviously increase your muscle mass and the importance thereof. But at what point do individuals actually start supplements in your mind?
Again, Doc, you actually touched on something earlier, just as I came back. It's something that I think is very important, is knowing what is happening inside your body and getting your blood work done on a regular basis. I think a lot of times in the fitness industry, we play the guessing game. You know what I mean? So we run around like we know what we're doing. And I'm talking about people that are just in the gym and just doing their own thing. We run around, we know what we're doing. We're just going to take these supplements and. But at the end of the day, we really need to know what's happening inside of our bodies, what certain levels are, like what our blood pressure is, what our LDLs are, what is my testosterone base. There's so much more to it than I think this is when you should be taking your supplements. So I think the short answer is, it's always a good time to take supplements. But the long answer is to get the best out of them. I think it would be to really not just go to the store and just buy these things because you see your favorite, athlete doing it, or because you saw an influencer on Instagram using it. Really know what your body needs. Know what your blood level, what your blood work is, and spend time with a doctor. Spend time with a dietitian. Really dial in, because at the end of the day, it's about results, and we want results. The best way to get results is to take the guesswork out of it and do it properly. And I think a lot of us are guilty. I know I am. I mean, here I am saying this, but I mean, I know that it is time for me to go get my blood work done again. I'm in my 40s now, so things are slowing down. And I'm looking for that super juice to put into the body. So the best way to do that would be to do it professionally and do it what's necessarily, or what exactly it is that you need. You know what I mean? That would be my.
Sorry, Mark, I interrupted you there.
No, not at all. Carry on. Go for it. The floor's yours.
Yeah, no. So what I would say is that, like from a clinical perspective, is that if your testosterone. So now I'm approaching from a clinical perspective.
Yes, yeah.
Excuse me. And I just want to mention, so my normal testosterone is about 300 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. So that's our listeners remember that 300 to 1,000. That's sort of the range from 18 to 40 years old. So potentially, if an individual came to me as a clinician and I saw their testosterone smack midway in that range, I would say, fine, that's that's fine. If it was on a sort of a lower side, then I would say, okay, potentially then at the lower levels or bordering, say, below that normal level, then it may warrant some testosterone replacement. Is that sort of what you've seen or experienced in your experience of what guys are doing in the gyms?
Very, very much so, Doc. And I mean, the cool thing is that, with the word testosterone was almost like a taboo word. You know what I mean? Testosterone was, you say testosterone, you automatically think bodybuilders like, injecting themselves in the bathrooms and using stupid amounts of the hormone to create these ridiculous physiques that they do. And I mean, that's fine. That is what happens. We're not naive to that. But the cool thing is with modern science is that I think a lot more men are talking openly about being on testosterone replacement therapy. It's not a taboo thing anymore. It's not like, oh wow, you're taking testosterone, you must be one of those weird bodybuilding guys. That's not what this is about. This is about bringing yourself back to that stage. And again, it was something I was thinking about before the podcast. I mean, if you could make yourself feel like you did physically, I mean, I don't really want to feel like I did in my 20s again because it was a very confusing time. But I mean, if you could dial back that physical level of feeling that good, you're indestructible. You can go to the gym, you can smash weights, and then you can go out and you can do this and you can do that. Why wouldn't you want to do that? You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about ridiculous levels where we want to, pack on slabs and slab of muscles. I think we're just talking about for the average male who is just trying to really just feel good and recapture a bit of what their youth was. And I think that's important for us to dial in here as well. And I'd encourage men to do their research on testosterone. You know what I'm saying? Talk to the doctor, talk to your peers, talk to people in the know, and I think it's exciting that it's not so much a thing where it's like, don't use the T word around me. It's a taboo. So I think it's really cool to know that, even medical practitioners like yourself, like doctors are now also a lot more open to it. And I mean, why wouldn't we be,
Yeah. No, I agree. And from a clinical perspective, it's definitely coming up a lot more commonly in the males that I see, and the questions around that. Just talking about supplements, the other two, I suppose, are creatinine and protein, and whey protein. I don't know much about that. Suffice to say that if individuals are taking those supplements, I'd let a clinician know so they can do your tests on your various organs and just make sure that there's no side effects. But certainly, I can understand from muscle building and synthesis that it can be of interest.
Definitely. I mean, just a quick one with creatine. I think Mike touched on it in one of our earlier podcasts that we did. Creatine is one of the most heavily researched compounds in the world. Basically, it's a natural chemical that our body releases. It's part of the ATP energy system. Basically, this is a very condensed version of it. It's what allows us to move dynamically, extremely explosively. So all creatine does is just help us build up a larger base of that in our ATP system, so we can perform at peak just that little bit longer. And I know it doesn't sound like much, but when you are doing sort of very stressful, explosive exercise, a couple of seconds makes a huge difference. And then obviously with protein, we all know the benefits of protein, how synthesizes with muscle mass. So I mean, just those three supplements alone, or two, already would make a big difference. But then you stack that on with good health choices, good eating choices, 3 to 5 days of good exercise in the week, and potentially being on some sort of TRT, you're setting yourself up for a really, really successful long, which is a word that I think we really emphasize on this podcast, longevity. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about short term. We're talking about things that'll help you live long and live full. So yeah, I think that's really important. Just even in the last couple of minutes, what we've spoken about there, I think is a big takeaway for a lot of the men listening.
No, exactly right. So the answer is if you're going to do supplements, that is a potential option, but do it under the right guidance, under the right clinical guidance. Make sure you're getting your blood levels checked. Don't do it blindly. And make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, right? In terms of your longevity and health and wellness. And I think that's a brilliant answer. And I think that's a very important takeaway message. But I think where that now sort of moves quite nicely into is that we should define the different life stages, right? We have, and as far as I see it, we have sort of the adolescence and early adulthood. We have midlife, and then we have your older ages. Let's say 50 plus. So your adolescence and early adulthood, that's where you have this rapid increase in testosterone during puberty. It boosts muscle growth, physical performance. But it also means that young men need guidance to, say, maybe avoid overtraining and navigating those testosterone spikes. Do you have thoughts around that in your experience, Mark? Just for the early adolescent.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's it's kind of like buying a sports car. It's like you can't drive the sports car at full tilt all the time. You know what I mean? So I think especially in young athletes, and maybe even recreational, the kids that get into it on a recreational level, guidance is very important. Because there is also the tendency to possibly overtrain. If, for example, you do have abnormally high levels of testosterone, say as a teen, you could put stress on your joints too soon, too early. I've seen it with one or two people where they've actually overtrained in their young years, and then as they get older, those joints never really developed enough strength to manage the weights that they were pushing around. So they got problems with their knees, problem with their shoulders. It's just dial it back a little bit, but but that really comes down to coaching and training. So again, that also is very important. If you are in the environment of being competitive and potentially want to be competitive, I think it's really important to take on professional coaching, even if it's at a recreational level. Use personal trainers, use trainers, use access to people that you have in the gym. Talk to them. So definitely, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's so important. But I do see, I think there's an increase of that. I mean, if I consider, say, 10, 15 years ago, less guys using it, but I do see sort of an increase in terms of using personal trainers, guys, from late teenager, I would say, into their 20s, start, seeking out advice, help, etc. And that professional advice is actually very important, right? To navigate those testosterone spikes and use it, because you're building up, you're obviously planning your whole next couple of decades, use it, that testosterone spike. You don't have to take it artificially. Your own body's producing it. So use it to your maximum benefit, as you are saying.
Yeah, 100%. And it's true what you say. The fitness industry has really, really grown, over the last, we could even just use 5 years, so there's so much more information out there, and there's so much more access to fitness professionals. So, there's definitely, which is great, because there's a lot less guesswork happening around in the gyms now, which is really exciting, kind of becoming a bit more of a safer, controlled environment. It's not just the hunting season out there,
Exactly. Now going into the midlife, okay, because I'm saying midlife is saying from your 30 to your 50s. So, where you start seeing the declining testosterone levels, right? Starting to decrease, energy levels, bit of muscle mass, mood, etc. It's a challenge to stay active during that period and maintaining a healthy diet. But very, very important, right? To be regular, to be consistent, to doing the cardio and the muscle building, because that is going to directly affect, just remember, your next level is your older age, 50, 60, etc. And I'm not trying to box anyone into specific ages, because I'm really talking about your metabolic age and not, say, real age, because we know that's significantly different. But that's a really, really important time, and I think often neglected in those age groups. And and it would be interesting to know sort of what men in those age groups of 30 to 50 or 30 to 60, those groups, are they adequately training sort of for that longevity and long-term health that we are talking about? Are they doing that?
I think this area, Doc, for me is where we would find our most parity, and we get our most people that we'd be speaking to. Because I think, you're a teenager or in your mid-20s, you're doing your thing, you're firing on all cylinders, off you go.
You
Good
want to
for
do
you.
it because it's attracting your opposite, your the opposite sexes or the same sex or whoever you're trying to attract, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But you're right.
And I think,
That's where it's once you've got through that phase, this is a very important age. This midlife change.
no, definitely. And these, myself being in that age group now, there's, and you nailed it.
You
And
don't want
it
to give
is, it's
away
still,
your age, Mark. Age to our listeners.
I'm happy to say I'm a 45-year-old male. But the fact is, and it's true what you said, Doc, because now it does get difficult, because even if you dial it back to your 30s, because now there's probably family, there's less time, there's a lot more commitments, and then we start taking less concern of the things that we're doing. So just say, for example, this is something else I wanted to bring up. What a lot of us don't pay attention to is what we're putting into our bodies. And I know diet is a whole different thing, but there's things that we've got to start hanging on to as older males, and that what little bit of testosterone we have left, we have to treat it like gold. So the fact is, something like alcohol. Alcohol is a massive inhibitor of testosterone, because all alcohol does is it just increases the reverse effect, which turns testosterone into estrogen. Now, something as little as 2 drinks a day can have a massive effect on your testosterone levels. So, obviously now we're a little bit older. We generally we have bras and we have a few drinks and whatever, but we're not thinking about the little things that we do. You know what I'm saying? So even just dialing back how many beers we have on the weekend, thinking about, like at a braai, should I be having that extra fatty lamb chop? You know what I mean? It's like just little things like this, because all of these things start really impacting what's happening on the inside of your body, whether it be your testosterone, whether it be your metabolism. So there's so many factors to start thinking about, especially in that bracket that we're talking about now, between 30, 50, and then potentially 60. Look, I'm not saying that we all need to live this hard and fast lifestyle, but it's just do a little bit of research, start understanding a few things. And then at the end of this, I do want to talk about carbohydrates and water retention as well, just with regards to the effect that can have on not necessarily our test levels, but just on weight gain. And I think at males, this is something that I really want to talk to.
I mean, we have a couple of minutes left, and I think I want to use that to talk about common health concerns, right? For me, it's sort of heart health. So we know men often develop heart disease earlier than women due to the high risk factors, lifestyle choices, blood pressure, and their regular exercise important. Prostate health important. Diet and exercise very important to support prostate health. Often guys think, well, it's something I worry about in my 50s, and just have that PSA and examinations as required. But no, diet and exercise very important for that. And I spoke a bit about obesity and diabetes a bit earlier, and the importance of exercise, cardio and muscle strengthening for that. But just to segue into the comment, you want to talk about water balance. Let's use the few minutes for you to talk about that, and then I'm going to just wrap up with some holistic wellness.
Yeah, great stuff. So I just want to segue into this very quickly. Just with regards to carbohydrates and water retention. I think the carbohydrate is such a. So I always feel sorry for the carbohydrate. It's like the punk rock kid of the food group. No one really understands it. But I just want to break something down quickly for everybody. So what people need to know is we generally eat quite carb heavy diets, right? I mean, it's just the way we are. We've got processed foods, we've got fast foods, we've got the access to all kinds of very carb heavy foods. And I think what a lot of people do is they want to rip carbs from their diet completely. Now the problem with that is what happens is with every carbohydrate that you have, there's 3 or 4 grams of, if you take in if you take in 1 gram of carbohydrates, there is 3 to 4 grams of water retention that comes along with that gram of carb. Okay, so that's, let's say for example you're eating 50 grams in a meal or over a day, you're looking at about 100, 150, 200 mils of water retention. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but you times it over a day or a week, that starts adding a lot of weight onto your body. So basically what I'm getting at is, what will happen is a lot of people will remove carbs from their diet completely. And, the weight then suddenly falls off. But the problem is, all that's happening there is you're losing water weight. You're not actually losing any fat. You know what I mean? So
you're building muscle, right? You're not building muscle, which I have emphasized. If you're losing weight, you need to be building muscle.
That's exactly it. Now, as we know, carbohydrates are fuel. Without carbohydrates, we've got no fuel. And the problem and basically what I'm getting at here is that by removing carbs, we're not doing our body any favors. It just comes down to a little bit of understanding of what carbohydrates are. And I mean, so many people don't even know that a fruit is a carbohydrate. You know what I mean? They think carbohydrates are just breads and put. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, it's not. So if you start suddenly taking in a ton of bananas and apples, and you think, I'm living so healthy, but why am I carrying so much weight? You're not. You're just carrying water. So here's a little test for our listeners, and I want them to do this because I've done this myself. Weigh yourself on a Friday and a Monday, and do that over a month cycle. You will see, like most of us, we can be quite diligent in the week. Okay, so we'll see when we weigh ourselves on the Friday, we should be at a pretty good weight. So say for myself, I walk around at about 87. When I weigh myself on a Monday, especially if I've had a few bras, a couple of beers, I'm going to sit at about 89 because I've probably gained about 2 kilograms. That's not weight. That's water weight. Come again, when I weigh myself on Friday, I'm back to my normal 85, 87. So you see almost how that weekend sort of sabotages your goals. You know what I'm saying? So again, it just comes down to understanding if I have two less beers on Saturday and I cut out maybe 1 less brie and a little less potato salad, you'll see those differences, and you're not sacrificing anything. You're still putting the nutrients in that you want your body to get, but you're not starving yourself of those things. And it's a really cool experiment. And I'd like our listeners to try and do that for about a month. And then just on the week,
it's a great challenge.
Yeah. Just
it is a great challenge. And we'll No. I think it's a great challenge. They tell listeners exactly as you say. Weigh yourself on a Friday and a Monday, and note the difference, right? And then you'll see the impact that sort of that weekend of alcohol and maybe not so great eating actually has.
Yeah, and I think let's lead from the front, Doc, and you and I will start.
Yeah,
we'll start.
I'm gonna do it,
and we'll post,
and then we'll feedback to the listeners.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
There's one area I just want to quickly touch on as well, and that's and we will have a more in-depth episode. But just as we're talking about hormones, is the whole sexual health and reproductive wellness, which we did speak about in women. But there's a definite connection between fitness, testosterone, and sexual health, and we know that exercise boosts testosterone levels, which can positively affect your libido and sexual performance and overall reproductive health. On the one hand, it's very important. On the other hand, erectile dysfunction can signal, if you're starting to experience erectile dysfunction, other significant diseases such as your hormonal imbalances, cardiovascular problems, etc. So it's a very important, often an area that men potentially know about, but they don't investigate or looked at further, and understanding that in terms of their reproductive health, wellness, and sexual health, that there is there are things that they can do about it to improve sexual health, but also it's a red flag or marker for other significant diseases. But underlying all of it, exercise, good diet, good sleeping patterns can really affect and boost it and actually get you to a better level. And often a neglected area, and we're definitely going to do a show on that. But Mark, just to wrap up, because pretty much we're out of time. Sorry?
No, I just wanted to agree with you. And I think another thing that we
Yeah.
will deep dive into down the line is also sleep. Sleep is such an important thing. And we will, I think,
But beside is a huge passion of mine in terms of it's probably, and I know you'd agree with me on this, it's probably one of the most neglected areas in health and wellness. It has a significant effect in all aspects of your body functioning, your longevity, your health span, and we're definitely going to go into that.
brilliant.
But just to wrap up, in holistic wellness on men, how would you sum it up for men in terms of looking at holistic wellness, how they should approach it, what they should do? What would your thoughts be on that you could leave our listeners with, Mark?
Yeah, I'll put it in a box. I think it's basically everything I've been alluding to, throughout the whole episode is understanding your body, number one, knowing that there is no one size fits all. What works for me might not work for you, but there are obviously blueprints that you can follow. But at the end of the day, and I think I'll echo this throughout the entire series, is do what sets you on fire. Do something that makes you want to go be fit, be faster, be better. Because, if you don't like going to the gym, for example, then you're not going to want to go to the gym. If you prefer being on a bicycle, get on a bicycle. Then do everything that makes you better on a bicycle. And that will then have such, the benefits for your life moving forward will be great. Same with if golf is your thing, you can still be you can be a golfer and then dive into fitness that makes your golf game better. You know what I mean? So find something that makes you happy and really makes you want to be better at it, and then be a better person with it. Also, take the time, speak to professionals, and just educate yourself. Health and fitness isn't it doesn't have to be a taboo thing anymore. Like you also don't have to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, or that's not. We don't.
It's not just about exactly. It's not just, and I think that's a very important message. It's not just about getting those muscles because you want to look good, which is fine. You may want to do that. It's because you want to be healthy, and I think that's really where we're coming in this. And I think that's an important message.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the muscles will come.
But there's three levels. I think that passing message. There are three levels I just want to leave our listeners with. One is I need to emphasize that there's a balance between physical, emotional, and mental health, and one has to look at all those three. And I know we're going to have we will deep dive into the emotional, mental side of things, but addressing all of those. The importance of self-care, stress management, and social connection, right? Regular self-care, stress reduction, building long-term networks are very important for long-term health.
Yeah.
And then lastly, breaking societal norms about masculinity and wellness. So men shouldn't feel too shy, embarrassed to look at it, or whatever the reasons are. They need to be out there. They need to be doing what as you said, Mark, individually one wants to do to actually build your health span and your longevity, and then let's break the stigmas, and men should get out there and focus on their health and wellness, and in that way build their health span and lifespan.
Definitely, and also not be scared to have, not be scared to have conversations that might be a bit sticky or a bit standoffish. Have the strength of self to speak about things, and really just set yourself forward. And I think it's very important.
Exactly.
Great stuff.
So I think a brilliant show. I think we covered a lot. We've done justice to men, as we felt at the end of our last episode that we had just focused on females. So we've done justice to men and males, and look forward to our next podcast. So just to look out for it. Will be advertised. And Mark, thanks for your time. Thanks for the insights, and I think some very valuable messages for men.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Right. Ciao.
Let's talk.